Well, when we started Circuitlaunch about 4 years ago, the idea was to bring the hardware community together. So um, I grew up as a electronic hobbyist, and then up to maybe my early teen years, the only thing I want to be in life was electronic engineer. And then one thing that we have problems with it is that, if you are working in software, it's very easy for you to go to a Starbucks and start doing your work over there. You can work anywhere. But if you are in hardware, that's not true. That doesn't apply to you. You cannot just go to Starbucks and start soldering on something over there. They might think you're building a bomb or something. So uh, we have a lack of space for the type of office space that would be provided to most of software people, making easier for them to start. We didn't have that. So the idea initially was to bring the community together. How do I bring the community together? So I ended up finding the space was 28,000 square feet, was empty for about 10 years. It was in a location where the zoning was correct. I knew the owner, and I said, well, how about if we just do a co-working for hardware electronics? So we initially just, renovate the space, meaning I renovated the space myself with the carpets and everything. I was there every day and night, putting that together because it's gigantic and very expensive. Then once we kind of finished that, we built a lab. So the idea is actually we have the most expensive machines, which initially is just basic lasers and 3D printers, and everybody could share. So if you're hardware, you don't need to buy one. We have solder stations, electronic lab, we have a wood shop, so you could do prototyping there. And that was the idea as sort of a makerspace slash co-working space. We had some assumptions, which is one was you had to have proper office space. I saw some of the makerspace around when we started, it was just the tools and just a big room. But the point is, like, if you're starting a company, that setup does not work for you because first of all, if you're hardware, you need a quiet place to work. I think software people can say the same thing, but for us, it's mostly important to not be bothered every 5 minutes or be in open space. So the open space in general idea does not work. So you need some private space to do that. So you need office space. Also, because as we joke, hardware is a business from day one, where you only not have a computer, you may have some equipment, personal equipment as well. You need the space to actually bring customers in. So the place needs to look not as a tool shop. So it had to be somewhat in the middle there. Third, we had to have parking. San Francisco, if you ever been to the Bay Area, there's something that doesn't exist. Parking is like you get a building, maybe get one parking spot, but that's it. So we are set up in Oakland near to the airport, and we have 300 parking spots because a lot of us carry stuff. A lot of the hardware people, if you have to show a prototype or something, you're carrying tools or you're carrying something. So parking was important. So we started with that. And then we did that for, it's very successful. We were able to get everyone. We built initially 10 or 12 offices. We'll fill all those up. We've been those things have been full since year 2, I would say. We had a bunch of empty space. Then something strange started happening, which was a lot of people that were not in robotics came to our events and start asking stuff like, how do you do this? How do I get into robotics? And I was like, well, go back to school, go to college, because that's how I think people do it. And then I answered that question so many times that one day I realized, hold on, a lot of us actually didn't go to college, to actually do this. Yes, we have MIT people at our space, have Stanford and all those guys, but I'd say a lot of them, everything that they learned about robotics, they learned after they left school. It was not during school, and it was only after they left school they were able to actually build stuff. And I was like, well, maybe that we're not in the co-working space at all. I think we're in education business. So then, right before the pandemic, it started this progress towards converting or doing add-on to what we have to become an education system. Meaning that the goal is to create some sort of program that we call, it's a project-based program called no linear project-based, which means that you wouldn't have lectures. You would do everything by building projects, which is the stuff that we think that miss the most based on what people came from university. Like they just didn't get to build stuff. They got to sit down through a lot of action, but didn't get to build. And a lot of the software guys and girls, they get learned by just doing it. And that's a whole mantra, like, don't waste too much time in the theory, just go ahead and build something. That's how you learn. And it's like, why can't you do that with startups, or with hardware? So then we start just building this thing, what we call the tree of knowledge, which you have all this, it's hundreds of projects. And then you get to pick which projects you want to work on. And depending on what kind of project you pick to work on it, then you acquire certain knowledge. And as you go, you can navigate through the tree of knowledge, and then you can build a portfolio of projects and figure out what kind of path you want to take. It's our assumption, which I think should be true. It was true for me, that nowadays, spending 4 or 5 years in a college degree, it seems a long time in a world where you can learn a lot of things in a YouTube video within 15 minutes. There's also certain assumptions that, when you go to college, and the way our method works is this: I don't know exactly what you're going to do with your life, but I'm going to teach you all these things. Hopefully, you use 30% of those things I'm going to teach you. Hopefully, you keep on this path, on this journey that you decide to do. The world does not work like that, especially not today. People get to decide what they want to do. It's 5 years is too long. You have a huge dropout rate, more than ever in universities. Those who don't know, I'm Brazilian, so I grew up in Brazil. I've been here in the United States for 20 years. And in Brazil, some of the college degrees in the last 5 years, some of the universities, they lost 50% of the students. People just are not intending to go to college as they would to. It's just not a sure pathway for you to do it. Now, I think college, there's a lot of great things about it, but I think we're in a different world. So pandemic hits and we're working on this thing. And now, the idea was that we're gonna build 20 more offices within the space. Then we're gonna create this and make the space a little bit more dense. And in the meantime, we're gonna work on an education program. The pandemic hit, so guess what? All we can do right now is work on an education program. And we're thinking that, I'm here thinking that, well, we're gonna lose everyone. It was hard to build this brick by brick to get the space filled and get the community to know us. And we did this in a very low budget. Some of the people that are trying to do this, they spend $25 million, $30 million. We did this in a budget of about $700,000, and mostly labor work that we did ourselves. And I'm thinking we're gonna lose everyone. We didn't lose one company. Nobody left. Nobody left. And we had like some of the dedicated desks or the hot desk people who left because they were there just, but the office space we got filled throughout the entire pandemic. We never lost anybody. So that shows the power of the community. So the goal right now is to build. We're completely focused on education program. We're took the advantage of this pandemic to actually do a whole renovation. We're in a 50% of the renovation right now. We built in 20 new offices. We added a bio lab. We are expanding. We're doubling the size of the electronic lab, and we're mixing this thing we call the 360 classrooms with the labs, because I think it's less about the lectures. Of course, it's more about the project. So we're trying to integrate the lab within some sort of classroom setup, and we launched the education program, which has been fantastic. So in many ways, the pandemic showed us with the power of the community. We actually focus on the community because we just lost money for 3-4 years, just because we want to just make sure that we got this right. And the fact that nobody left throughout the pandemic and that we could have got the revenue to go to zero, just like that, I think is the power of what it is. I hope that within 3 to 5 years, and the goal over here is compete with universities. Within 10 years, I do want to be a reliable alternative to MIT on the Stanford Engineering Program. And kind of like what's the goal that we're currently working. So I'd say that right now, I would say we're about maybe 3 weeks to become completely an education company. And hopefully that was not too much rambling there. I tried to navigate through a lot of stuff that happens throughout this process. If you have any questions that I can clarify, please let me know.
Congratulations. I am extremely proud of you. This is amazing. That's why I thought it must have been bad, because so many people not coming again. And I guess that's an issue with all these shared co-working spaces, maker spaces, that people are not coming anymore. And it speaks for you that you're good at building community. When I have a question, maybe before we open the floor to everyone, because that was for me, every time I was there, it was a bit of a journey to the future as well. Can you share a little, I think the major technologies that I've experienced with robotics, biotech, and maybe VR and AR. Can you share a little about what people are working on and a glimpse of journey into the future? I'd be curious about that.
Well, automation is in full force. So there's a lot of companies in space working pretty much, replace humans, which I think in many ways that goes from small tasks to a little bit more complicated, to actually replace humans, to actually replace the biological part of the human. So I think there's if the pandemic showed something that I've been saying for 5 years now, which is in about 20 years, most of us would be useless as workers. And I've been saying that, unfortunately, I have 2 kids, and one is 5 and 4, and I keep thinking, what the hell are you guys gonna do when you grow up? I have no idea, because I cannot see any area that a machine implement with the proper AI will be able in a less efficiency than a human. I think we're doomed. And as far as like what we're gonna do for work, how we're gonna prove our values. So I think we're gonna have to reinvent ourselves as human beings, because I don't see anything the robot cannot do better, much better, to an extent that is so far beyond to what we can achieve. I remember, just a small example of this is like we have an autonomous car race. It's those donkey cars. It's ran by Chris Anderson, the previous chief editor of Wired magazine. He wrote the book Maker. It's really well known in the Valley. So he runs his DIY robocar competition in our space. And this is pretty much donkey cars, which they got to go around the track. It's a pre-specified track that they go around. When they started this, nobody could finish the track. Everybody goes off, and little by little, every quarter when they met, things got better. It got better to a point that there's no human can beat the cars. They're so fast, and there's no way that a human can actually do it. And we have this consistent competition with always a human going to try to do it. It just can't catch up anymore. That's the same true with drones. And I think that's going to be the same true with any other area that I can think of, it, including the creative ones, which people think that, creative ones not going to go. Well, creativity is, has a lot to do with uniqueness and likeness. A computer can learn what is unique and then identify what people will like. And actually, what we even be better at identify what you think is creative, because a lot of creativity is about what other people think that I am creative. So computers will get really good at making you or a set of people believe that I am creative when it may not be the truth, but so what? If you can't tell the difference, doesn't matter. Then at this space, you have a lot of people working with the autonomous cars. You have a lot of people with the software part. You have a lot of people working with, we have a couple companies with BIOS. One of them, which is built as 3D printer, which the idea is actually to use cells to pretty much build human organs. Then they're starting with blood vessels. They sold a couple to the Mayo Clinic, and now they're building the biomaterial that you see about to do this. But basically, I'd say 80% of the stuff that people be working on comes down to how can it replace a human. And the pandemic did nothing but just multiply that by a 10x. Because now all the companies are thinking, well, okay, so I need to figure out a way to perhaps work, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done in place. Yes, a lot of people will be able to work remote right now, but there's a lot of people that needs to be done, like a lot of labor needs to be done. You cannot do labor virtually. So you just need to do it. So companies are all trying to figure out how to replace the humans that now cannot come to the office or cannot come to the factory with machines. And also showed how bad it is to work from home. So I know a lot of people are saying, hey, it's beautiful, everybody can work from home right now. It kind of sucks for a lot of people who really need an office set up to work on it, especially for a young family and have kids. If you live in a very dense area, working from home does not work for you.
I hear you. And working with Singularity University, I think some of the people, I would call it, they're consciously naive about the future and optimistic. And I endorse that lifestyle. Let's call it lifestyle, that way of thinking. I think it's good to be consciously naive and optimistic. They say that more jobs will be created because it's always been that way, and we just don't know these jobs yet. What's your take on that? Do you know some of the jobs that will be created?
It's short term, yes. And let's define what short term is. Short term is 3 years. That's what short term is, 3 to 5 years. Long term, which should not be even long term, I'm talking 10 years. So in a short term, you need a lot of people to build these machines, to build these AIs. But this is different from the industrial revolution, where yes, that in fact create a lot of jobs because you need a lot of people to create more machines and then create more stuff and more of that. Now we have a different element. It's not just about the machine, it's about the intelligence the machines can have that's comparable to a human. So if artificial intelligence becomes real intelligent, which will, I have no doubt about that. It's just a question of time. Maybe it'll be in a year, maybe in 5 years, but it's happening, it's right around the corner. When that actually gets integrated with the machines, now there's really nothing that we're going to be able to do. I just don't see it. And I see a lot of people in the Valley trying to be optimistic. But I think the optimism come to a lot of these people are in certain positions where they don't want to get in confrontation with other people. I'm not in that position, so I don't really care about saying what I think actually is happening. I'm seeing it happening. Ignore what is happening. It's just stupid. It's just like we are going to have to actually reinvent ourselves as human beings. Oh, fact.
That basically means that if we humans are replaced, because I guess the first step is that the machines will do everything humans should not do, right? Things that are repetitive, things that are dangerous, things that require high accuracy, things that are numb. All the things that humans should not do will be replaced by machines soon. And then we have the second part where we talk about, and you mentioned that, empathy, creativity, where we think that this is our domain, so this will not be replaced by the machines too soon. So that will be replaced by the machines following you as well. So more and more, the definition of job will diminish. Will the machines make money for us?
I have no idea what's going to work out in there. And the only thing I'm sure, I have no idea how we're going to deal with this. I have no idea how we're going to deal with ourselves as humans. And I have no idea how the world with machines only taking over it's going to be. I do know it's going to happen. I know it can go in so many ways, but I know that I have no doubt it's going to happen.
And with that, I would like to open the floor for everyone who just unmute yourself and ask a question.
My question is, I want to add to this prospect of what will come in the future. And I think what's funny, when you see, for example, athletics, we still like to watch human beings beating for the 100-meter world record, although we know that, for example, robots will be faster. I'm sure there will be biped robots. So is it really true that we are completely outplaced everywhere, or still humans are playing chess? We know that we have no chance against the computer, and that AlphaGo or whatever in other areas of, in this case, the game of Go, they are still better, even better, but we are still like to play chess. So maybe it will come down to this, what the famous economist, who was it, Keynes said, that maybe we will not have to work so much anymore. The machines will work for us and we have time to play more.
Right. Lucas, I think that the question would be here, like, what defines us as a human? Work is a big part of being a human, and
Yes.
it's a big part of us trying to find value out of what we are. So, and the fun, I would say, I think if you get lucky to get into a job that you like doing it, that is your fun. That is what defines you. And if you take that away as a metric, as you're trying to achieve, what is the fun about? I kind of like define what the fun would be. And also, I'd like to challenge the idea that the humans actually like to watch other humans doing things. And it's just, I don't have a big data set on this. I'm going to tell you by my kids. My kids love watching people playing video games. They don't see the people, they just see the damn games. Like, to the point that, I don't think, I'm just thinking of here that any movie that doesn't have, it's not either animated, or if it's not a video game, like they're not playing video games. They're only 4 and 5. So there's no video games in the house, but they just go to watch videos of people that are playing video games. And those are not humans. They're watching Mario Brother goes through stuff that I cannot understand the storyline. So that is also changing.
The game is played by a human. It's basically recorded gaming.
Right. So it took me a long time to understand what the appeal of Twitch is. If you don't know what Twitch is, it's this huge site that, it's kind of YouTube just for people playing video games. Now watching my kids, I'm like, I should understand what the appeal is, but there's something there that they care more than by watching humans.
Marcus, you're home in the education space. What's your thoughts? Where do we have to train our future?
Well, I think, unfortunately, I think teachers are the problem. I think they genuinely think that you need to learn this stuff, if for no other reason than I had to, so you have to. And when one starts to talking about disrupting, and that you can learn everything on YouTube and others very quickly, which you will if you're focused on it. And maybe the problem is teachers. Well, in fact, maybe let's assume that the problem is teachers. And actually, I'll be intrigued. The education process which you're working through, Lucas. So, sorry, not Luke, Alex. Sorry, I do apologize, Alex. What do you see? So let's take MIT. MIT, people go to, it's got a name, it's got a reputation, it's got a program, it's got a curriculum, it's got all the rest of it. If we were to do something else, which clearly you're going to do, and clearly it's going to create some amazing people, do you think there's a space for assessment? Do you think you need to have this stamp saying MIT graduate? Or do you think we can move away from that?
Well, let's perhaps go back a little, try to understand why universities were created to begin with. Universities were initially created for research, to expand human knowledge. That's what they're created to begin with. Universities were not created to pump people to the market, to get people to actually go to a job specifically. Eventually, I think the market defined it and start believing that if you came with a university with a stamp, like MIT and Harvard or Stanford, because they're so good at filtering the students, that if I select a student from that group with that certificate, that will be better. Then you had the software people, and then there is I think evolution is playing some interesting role here in how to select and how to adapt to the market. So software people came and said they did the same thing. They hired the best from Stanford, from MIT, for the software programs, until they couldn't find any more people, or until they start fighting for people for salaries. So when that Apple, Google, and them start fighting for people, like, you pay 100, I'll pay 200, and then I'll pay 300, that thing got way too expensive. So they start realizing, they start hiring people from outside of those things, just because they had to, not because they believed that was better, because they had to. Then they start hiring those people, and then they realize the following: hey, wait, this person over here that we had to hire, because kind of didn't want to, but had to, is actually performing just as well as a person that came from MIT, Stanford. And then because software nature changed so fast, it's, something that you learned 5 years ago, that the independent university came out of it, it's just not used anymore. Maybe you have some fundamentals over there, but those fundamentals could have been learned in 6 months or even less. So there's no difference here. So now there was this whole movement to say, perhaps you don't need a degree to do this. And now the whole Valley is like about this, and they have schools coming around this thing, which is like, oh, yeah, you kind of don't need university to go this thing. So we have a bunch of people who have like projects like Lambda, for example, who has this program where you don't pay anything until you get a job. So then when you get a job, then and as long as you make at least $70,000, and then that's when you start paying for your tuition. That's what they work. And that's working as an experiment. I think it's working quite well. But the point is, it's changing. It's changing the fact that you need that certificate or that degree. Here's one thing I would not change. And I think that's where I'm kind of like really focusing to work on it, because of course I don't have the reputation of MIT or Stanford. And I think that's going to take me 10 years to prove that, to approve or get some sort of reputation that it works, is worth it. It's two things that we're focused on very heavily. One is how to extract metrics and learnings from stuff that you built, that you can say that you learn. And then how can we prove to companies, and I'll open I'll put companies between quotes here because I have a big problem with the employment market, and I'll go back to this. So how can we show companies that you know what are you saying that you know?
Yeah.
It comes down to those two things. And then the third part to this is like, how do we convince companies that there is a different way for you to verify if a person actually acquired the skills they're saying that they did? Because I guarantee you, anybody has in recruiting, I would say that the best universities, like I'm calling it best, the most popular ones like Stanford, they got a very good recruiting system. So those people that usually get recruited, because there's so few that get through it, I'll say most of them or a lot of them would probably do well without having to go into the course at all. You know, that's why you see a lot of dropouts, you know, going and building companies sometimes. Oh, they came from Stanford, from MIT. Well, smart people, they'll figure out stuff how to do different things. And how, and usually those people, they get to show what they're actually doing by building a company and by building software. That's how they show the world they can do. What can we do that for hardware and for electronics, for physics, for the whole engineering aspect of it? We believe it's by building projects. So you build stuff that you say that this is what I built, because then an employer can ask you, how did you build this? And what kind of problems did you face while building this? I think it's a much more interesting filtering process for companies than the certificate at all. It doesn't matter where you come from, because anybody that are in the engineering, if you're like in an entry, like junior, you're hiring the junior, you know those guys don't know anything. You know you're gonna have to retrain them in your first year. I mean, that's the fact when you hiring these people. Of course, and then everybody wants to hire people with experience, right? But then you probably heard a joke about that. you hire somebody that came out of college with experience, spent 4 or 5 years actually sitting in a classroom, and now you want them to have experience. So trying to make this short. So I want to talk about the employment part of it. And here's what I think is the dangerous part. I don't believe we're going to have a job market in 20 years for humans. And at the same time, I'm here talking about teaching humans and how to get into the market somewhat. So as we build this, we keep that in mind, that we have to build humans that have to be passionate about engineering, that hopefully as people get passionate about engineering, they get to build new things, and hopefully they go out and start a company and not necessarily look for a job. Because I think any job that someone gets into right now, you have to be reinventing yourself every 6 months, to 12 months. So talking about just putting people on training people for employment, I think it is a bad business strategy for a business and for the world. And here's what I think the universe is going to get bad in about 2 to 3 years from now, because they've been doing this for quite a long time. They have massive amount of labor, massive amount of real estate. When people just saying, screw you, you don't provide me any value. I'm not going to get a job anyway. I'm not going to pay $30,000, $40,000, $100,000 to go to school just for the social aspect of it. Then they're going to have what I call the Nokia moment. You know, Nokia at some point had 80% of the cell phone market, until 1 or 2 companies came in and just swept them, not because they were necessarily better, because they thought a little bit different, and I adapted to a younger market, what the younger market actually was. Nokia went from dominating the market to disappearing for about 36 months, for pretty much, disappear. But so sorry I make the question long, but I think it's important for us to understand those aspects of what it is right now, what I think it's going, and I think what reputation, what the stamps means right now, because the stamps mostly by this point has been determined by the market. Like bigger companies.
We have Tom here from liquor and beverages business, and I'm curious what you think about that industry, the entertainment industry and leisure industry.
I think Tom, Lucas left. Tom will have to type in, right? Because I think he has a bad connection.
Yeah, I was asking you what you think about it. I'm curious what you have for Tom.
Oh, sorry, you asked me to actually comment on what Tom's. Well, when I was in high school, I went to a technical high school, mechanical engineer high school in Brazil. At that time, I remember they took us to a factory. It was a cigarette factory in Brazil. I think Souza Cruz is the one that represents most of cigarettes at some point. So they took us. Sounds like a bad idea, but they took the high schoolers to actually go to cigarette school to look at the line. At that time, this was 20 years ago, no, 25 years ago. At that time, from the time where they start the line up to the end, not one person touched the cigarette. The whole process automated 25 years ago. So I'm not sure what the depth it's on working with the alcoholic industry, but I would think that most of them is already been automated for a long time. I think the research process is, to figure out the drinks and all the study for the food development, the drink development. But I think they probably been developed. It's just the thing about all of them is been automated for a long time. I don't think they clearly understood at that point that it was necessary to replace humans. A lot of those jobs are automated because of safety, just because they don't want people to get hurt in certain things. But I think they're very aware right now. We need to save money. The best way to do is cut labor, especially if you're in the United States.
That's in production, but then also we have the wine industry where people are paid for their very specific taste, right? That they blend the right wines together to make it taste so special. And then we have the gastronomy where people go for a very special chef, or people go for specific servers, and they have the relationships with the people who cater the food to their tables or bars. I don't know. Will that be replaced as well?
Absolutely. Easily. Absolutely. I mean, I guess you can't say you cannot replace personality, but let's remove the personality out of the equation. What are those people actually doing? They're called the tastemakers, right? They take a food, they break down many aspects of it, and then let's take like the best ones. Because again, what is the best one? It's the best one that figured out something that all the people would like what they do. It was the same story with movies before. They have the tastemakers. You have these movies through these people, and they say, oh, this movie goes, that movie doesn't go, because no, I like it. If I like it, other people will like it. So take those patterns and actually run through a software, and then just had people, okay, that's what he's identified, because that human, the tastemaker, he learned that, not only I like these things, but all the humans who like this thing. That sounds like a very easy job for a machine for me.
I love your very radical mindset. I still think
I'm sorry. People think I'm pessimistic. I'm actually just being realistic about what it is and trying to be optimistic on top of it, because we're still living. I can see we're still alive, and I still wake up every single day, and I go do the work every single day, because that's, again, as humans we have to do something. But honestly, there's nothing. there's nothing I can see.
Stays only because it's possible. Does it also make sense, right? Should we also do it just because it's possible? And we're a species of tribe, right? We want to be together. You mentioned earlier, we want to go to spaces. We don't want to work from home all the time. Want to be among people. So the question is, will we be among avatars, right? Will that also be something that we create the peers that we want to hang around with, and we don't have to Tinder them or find them anymore?
I think we're gonna be coined out as a tribe, as a bigger tribe, as a humans, and then this is not like I don't see this being like the exterminator of the future, a type of like those things. It's not like that. I actually don't know exactly what it's gonna become, and I don't know what it is that because intelligence is this thing. Intelligence is just, we know that we're intelligence because other people recognize as intelligence, and we have this thing among us that we admire, and they're like, okay, we're intelligent. But if someone is 20 times more intelligent than you, which level are you at that point? it's kind of like letting the dogs to play among each other. Just let them do it. Maybe it doesn't matter. Just let us humans play among ourselves until we perish. I don't know. The question is, I'm just here make fiction out of this, but I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't know it is going to happen. And then I want to pick up on something you said, that like, common sense for us to do certain things. Since when common sense stopped humans to do stupid things? It has never. We do. I want to bring a point of view when as a child, right? I look, we study like history and talk about the wars and all this stuff. And I think, humans are much less evolved at that point. They are much more primitive humans. And I'm sure I was born here and I see like this beautiful planet. It's only gonna get better. How wrong was I about that? Humans just petty. We're just petty people. We're just like, let us, it doesn't matter how much intelligent people are, they just let themselves. Common sense is not a thing. Common sense it's not a thing.
Floor is open. Please share your thoughts.
Well, I guess there were a couple of things that spring to mind. I mean, that was really good. It's very, very thought-provoking, Alex. There's one thing that springs to mind just building on this education. You start to question, which is maybe an obvious point, with the potential replacement of humans with machines for everything. What's the role of education? Is there a role? And what's the motivation to be educated other than through self-actualization, self-fulfillment? And so much talk nowadays and investment in ed tech that may come to fruition in 10 to 20 years time. I wonder whether it'll be almost too late for the party in some ways, in terms of transforming large educational systems around the world. I mean, Marcus will know a lot more about this than I do, but it's like pulling teeth, I think, for many countries. So yeah, that was one thought.
I think teachers actually will be the last ones to turn the light off. So the last machine will need to be trained and taught by someone. So I think, people like, we think with the less professions that you think is going to go. I think teachers may be one of them, because if someone has to turn off the lights, and after they turn on the machine, I think, again, I have to think about short term, medium term, long term. I think short term, the machines will actually play a big role in teaching us.
Yeah.
I do have some advisors that play with this idea that kids will have their own avatar, which is like, know everything. Because a lot about education is very personal. There's something we perhaps evolved into in this era in time that we realize is the more personal the education is, I think more effective it will be.
Yeah.
Putting 40 people, 100 people in a classroom and trying to teach them the same way, it only is going to teach 10% of the people really well that are already set up for the type of environment or because adapted better than the other ones. You have a majority of the class that will not be in the same wavelength. So perhaps the future of education is a computer system or an avatar, which some of my system people work with artificial intelligence, they keep calling, that know everything about you to a cellular level. They know exactly how your brain folds into the learning. It knows what is best for you to fall into the learning that your brain needs to do. And they will teach you along your life. It'll be like your babysitter for life. It'll stay with you as a child and keep teaching you until you get to a point. That's medium term. That's medium term. Short term will be teaching those AIs to do that, and the AIs will teach us. And then after that is the great big question marks and the great points, which I don't know. Again, I'm pessimistic about the future as far as humans being able to compete, but I'm optimistic about just living. I still love living, so I love waking up every day and then doing this. So I will do this until I can't no more, or maybe until I merge with machines. Because maybe this us or our kids are our last generation that would be completely biological. Maybe the goal is the only way for humans to evolve at the same fast pace of an AI will be just merging with them somehow. That's a whole set of conversations there that I am.
That's basically the answer to the machines are taking control, that we're part of the machines or the machine is part of us.
Yeah, but then you have to ask a question too, like from the machine standpoint, why? Why I'm going to merge with a lower form of life that only, it dies, it corrodes, it ages. It's so messy to deal with it. It has all its feelings. I'm not sure if evolution has a place for our feelings. Maybe it is. Again, I'm being philosophical here about what is going to happen, and more of a thought exercise for us to get into the wavelength. Because one thing I'm sure is actually they'll take off our jobs. I'm not in question about that. But it's like, how is it going to look like? That's where the fiction comes in. That I'm curious, just as all of you, to figure out what's going to happen. I'm still going to ride the wave, though. I'm still going to ride the wave. I'm still going to do the education. I'm going to live from the robots, and I hope I'll be there until the end.
Thanks. I've just posted, you may be familiar with this, but there's an article written by an AI in the Guardian 3 or 4 months ago. I think it was the end of last year. And they fed on some requirements, what they'd like it to talk about. And it's quite incredible, actually. It's worth reading. And, one of the things, just to build on what you were saying, one of the quotes is, humans must keep doing what they've been doing, hating and fighting each other. I'll sit in the background and let them do their thing. That was a quote of the
Yeah, the AI they're using, that most people are using right now, is called GPT-3. I think it's GPT-3. It's
yeah.
Right? It's the evolution that everybody's using. So pretty much you type few paragraphs and then writes a whole thing about however you want, how you would. And it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that people already been doing this with music for a long time. There's a university professor from Santa Cruz, and I'd be happy to share this book that I read about algorithms a long time ago, that it's been doing this, creating music. Pretty much you put like all the classical music, you get the machine to learn all those classical music. You take Bach, for example, you take Bach, you take all the work that he has done, and then trying to find the patterns that Bach used to actually do the music. And then the computer pumps out thousands of music just like Bach. Now, all of them is going to be good, of course, just like Bach. A small percentage of what they do is actually good. But this has been research has been 20 years.
Yeah. It was GPT-3 actually.
GPT-3, right? Yeah. GPT-3 is the latest shiny AI tools that most people are doing, and it's because it is pretty impressive.
Mm. And we'll get much more, so I'm sure.
I have a question, Alex. Would an AI be able to build something like a Circuitlaunch? I mean, would that be possible in the near future?
As far as the physical space, or like as part of the community?
Coming up with the idea, putting all the passion, and I think passion is one thing that differentiates us from AIs. Still, actually, I mean, how you see this thing? I mean, all this entrepreneurial approach. I mean, would AIs be entrepreneurs? I mean,
well, they don't have to be. That's the thing. Like we do a lot. They don't have to be, because we do a lot of things. A lot of them based on emotion. Like we eat because we feel hungry. We love, and then we can have a whole discussion about what love actually is. We kind of love because we feel the necessity of being with someone else. Or machines don't have that. We have a lot of sensors built in our body that requires us to do certain things. Like the sense of community comes from a lot of those sensors. A lot of the meaning of finding your own tribe and fit in. AIs don't have that. So the lack of sensors, like the feelings, I mean, it's adding sensors, because pretty much what we have is sensors, like the sensors that we can see, taste and feel and smell and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of beauty, and like AI does not have to be that. And I don't know if you'll be empathetic to things that they cannot feel.
But then,
and I don't think
they don't think that they are superior to us because they don't have bias.
Well, there'll be a very egoistic thing to do, because then to do that you have to have some sort of feeling that you want to be bigger than other humans or some other species. And if you think, again, it's hard for us to think, trying to think as a being 20 times more intelligent than you are. It's just maybe it's just irrelevant. It's kind of like ants. We kind of only care about them when they bother us. Other than that, they just do their own thing and let them leave. We don't really care about what they do.
Very provocative thoughts. I really love it.
Love it.
As I said, Florida.
Alex, one question from my side. Is your hypothesis that humans adopt to AI more than AI adopt to human thinkings, or is that, which way is it? Is it that humans attempt to adapt to the AI world, how it works, and unemotionally and stuff like that?
That's a good question. I don't know, because again, we have to understand what AI is, and the way how we kind of understand this is trying to put them into buckets, to good or bad. And then I like, I want to be like this AI, but it's just such a much more intelligent, because when you get to the point where you can teach yourself how to be more intelligent, the scale and the speed of that is so fast and so ahead of what we can do, what we can think of it, that it's very hard to, and I can only think that if an AI trying to, got to the point where it was important for them to make us feel that we need to be more like them, it will still be the AI in control. Because, a lot of the stuff that we do in life as a group is manipulation. A lot of them, it's not perceivable for us, but it's, if you look this in patterns, it's a lot of people, it's your parents manipulating you to do certain stuff, good or bad, because they think that's the right thing to do. But, they're shaping the world around us. AI doesn't have that. So I believe that anything that they want us to make us believe that we can, they will. Because unless if we can figure out a way to evolve biologically really fast, which I don't think is going to happen, not comparable to a machine. I don't think we'll ever know. even if we're trying, I don't think we'll know if it's one or the other. I believe if AI becomes truly intelligent, they will always be in control.
Okay.
It's my thought, right? So a lot of this, it just seeing this, how it's moving and how it's happening. I just think we should accept our place in humanity here and just play along ourselves, trying to do the best we can as humans to do productive things, and try not to stress too much about this.
Is that do you think we do not have to stress it too much, or do we have to think about it more?
What's the point of stressing? I don't understand. I'm saying here, like, what's the point of stress? And at the same time, I'm stressed about it. But the truth is, what is the point of stressing about that? It does not add any value to us. It is going to happen, no matter what this group here cares not to happen or not. It is just
maybe not this group, maybe not this group, but maybe humanity. As Elon Musk says, we have to take very care of how it's going to be developed, and where we have to maybe stop certain things or rethink certain things or be more curious, because we are very patient with AI. Yeah, we say, take it slowly, and you have to see, don't overdo it, and so on. So, but vice versa, it won't be the case. Yeah, and as you said, yes, things will be evolving, or and we can't easily stop it. But thinking about it and being more curious about it would maybe, yeah.
Maybe. Maybe. I think there's the humans not going to stop this, because even if some humans, it's kind of a virus, like the whole COVID thing or any potential virus is only as good as you can keep them. If you can keep everybody inside of one place, nobody travels nowhere, and then I guess then you can protect against the virus. But as long as he has other country who doesn't protect it, as a world, and then by AI, it's like, if we think, let's all be careful about this and not do it, other country will do it, other person will do it. Because again, that's another thing too. You don't need massive amount of resources to do this as before. As we go forward, more this gets more and more individual people. And as if I can watch government, which is usually a few hundred people trying to make decisions they cannot get along. Can you imagine like a few billion of people that just have different opinions that would think, I'm gonna do this anyway. And
one last question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, one last question from my side. What do you think about superhumans? The connection of very close connection of like humans and intelligence, whatever that is.
They already happen. I think it's probably like a medium term. That's what we're going to try to do as humans. We're going to try to actually increase, and you have like Elon Musk, Neuralink, and all that. I think in the short term, that's what we're going to try to do. But this already happened. Like, what's the last time where you remember someone else's phone number? You know, the cell phone number, that's it. We already outsourced most of our capability to the cell phone.
Yeah.
There's a problem between us and the cell phone is because the input and the output of the cell phone is choosing your hands. All I see that happen is getting closer and closer to us and choose inside us. Because it's just, we're going to have this need of getting faster and faster and faster at this. Because right now we need information. We don't, you don't call, maybe you say to the phone to tell you, or, you research a search engine of your like, and you get an answer, or you go to a certain place and get an answer. But that's going to start getting slow in a sense that it's taking too long. Me just asking the machine just to do it. I wanted this faster. And the only way to do this faster, it's not by using our eyes to look, to understand, then go through the process. Just integrate it with us. Somewhat figure out a way to integrate that with the body.
Right. So many thoughts. You just put so many seeds that grow into thoughts of the future, dystopian ideas. We've hit the top of the hour, and I always want to respect also your time. I feel like there is a lot of ongoing conversation that can happen after this. This is why, as usual, I will always connect you with everyone in the room. Please take it from there. Keep that conversation alive. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Sessions also revisited and go through it again. And many, many thoughts ignited. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, nice meeting all of you. I hope we'll keep in contact. Again, not trying to stress out too much, and at the same time stressing about it. But all we can do right now is do the best we can as the capability that we have to push this thing forward every single day and hope for the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Tom.